better future.
What's next? What you want? 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 What's next?
Sun feels like gold on my skin. I win. Another day to begin with my friends. Chasing the bag with a grin. Are you in? Let's do this for real. Don't pretend. It's a better future.
It's no surprise. I see it all in your eyes. Yeah, everything glowing real bright.
It's a better future.
As clear as the sky. I know if you're down to ride, then you'll be fine.
It's a better future.
What's next? What you want? What's next? What you want? What's next? What you want? What's next?
Take it in hand, understand it's a goal. You've always been there and prepared for the show. You're bright like them lights, it's divine when you glow. You remind me to shine, don't you know? It's a better future.
It's no surprise. I see it all in your eyes. Yeah, everything glowing real bright.
It's a better future.
As clear as the sky. I know if you're down to ride, then you'll be fine.
It's a better future.
What's next? What you want? 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 What's next?
Hello, everyone. Hi, my name is Summer L. Williams. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the Associate Artistic Director here at Company One Theater. Welcome to season 2 of our Better Future series. If you're joining us for the first time, the Better Future series is a multi-part digital storytelling gathering, bringing together of space and artists and community leaders and policymakers, all from Boston. So this season on the Better Future series, we are building on the conversations that began in summer 2020. We're going to dive deeper into the needs of the often ignored communities in Boston and across the country. This season, we're going to continue that work to celebrate the vibrancy and the multiplicity of Black lives, experiences, and narratives as we highlight ways to build and invest in our communities despite the systems that are actively trying to tear us apart. Along with our panelists tonight, we are joined by Sarah and Jess, who will be our ASL interpreters. If you need live captions for the broadcast, please tune in to our Facebook page. Before we get started, we'd like to begin by acknowledging that Company One Theater produces work in Boston, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Wampanoag, Nipmuc, and Massachusetts people. We affirm that it is important to understand and honor the history of the Indigenous land that we occupy, while recognizing that this acknowledgement is insufficient and does not undo the legacies of violence and displacement of Indigenous people. We aim to take small steps toward a future of decolonization and reconciliation. Thank you. So if I can have everyone turn their cameras on, we are so excited to get our conversation started. Let's begin by introducing our panelist. OJ Slaughter is a photographer, creative director, community organizer, and creative consultant. Jenese Brownhill is the director of Juvenile Justice Division at the Justice Resource Institute, or JRI. And Tonasia Jones is a disruptor, a creator, and the director of programs at the Theater Offensive, as well as a dope actor. To read their full bios, please visit companyone.org/betterfuture. We're also going to drop that link in the chat. So now I have the great pleasure to pass it off to Jasmine Brooks, who is going to kick off our discussion for this evening. During the panel, please feel free to ask any questions you have in the comment section. We're going to get to that a little later in the conversation. Jasmine, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Summer, for that warm intro. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our panelists. I'm so excited to kick off this conversation that we're going to have today that's going to focus on joy in mental health and like finding community and all the interesting work that all of these leaders are doing at different intersections in our field. So just to start off, I just want to hear like how you guys incorporate joy, mental health, and wellness through your work and how that is important through all the different things that you take on either as an individual or in the institutions that you work in. Let's hear all about it.
You got it, OJ.
Yeah? Okay, here we go.
Jump in.
So I think that face value, photography has dwindled in value to a lot of people because we see it so frequently. It's on Instagram, it's on Facebook. Everything that you can see is a photograph right now, right? Because a lot of us are behind screens or video. But where I find joy is knowing that my work maybe gets to brighten somebody's day. Maybe it gets to, make somebody think a little bit harder than they would have if they hadn't seen that photograph. But for me, it really allows me to, and I'm going to talk about a little bit more in a bit, it allows me to experience my feelings, not just internally, but externally. It's the best way for me to process emotion through others and myself as a conversation versus it just living in my head or in my notebook, which it does a little bit of that too. But yeah, I think that I find joy in knowing that I changed my own life through photography and hopefully change others in the same breath.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go next. Where I find joy is bringing solutions to long-standing problems that are affecting youth and families in the community. I like to be in spaces where we're having conversation about solution, and not just solutions that will go away, but sustained solution, and just the engagement of different systems and the commitment that's there in impacting young people's life. I think whenever we're so disconnected now, but in previous times, whenever a young person come to our office and I really see the engagement that they're having with their clinicians or therapeutic mentor, and me understanding what it took to kind of get them to open up and just to smile. I remember just conversation with one young man about wanting $5,000 and that just and how he was going to plan, through work, and just to get that brings me joy, just really seeing the impact of the work and the relationship that's built and sustained in the community. So really seeing who the service reaches the most brings me joy.
Yeah. I think for me, the whole idea is like that they're both one and the same, right? And I can speak about it through my organization and how I learned about that. And then like personally a little bit later in the day. But, TTO, I want to say like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, you got to look at the website, changed its mission to be a solely QTPOC organization in the mission. So not only like in our practice, but in our mission. And we really had to think about what that meant to be a QTPOC centered organization and what it meant to follow QTPOC leadership, right? And instead of all of us deciding, oh, this is what it means to be this, what we decided was to embark on like a 3-year long, what I'll say like research project where we interviewed QTPOC artists from Boston to Philly to Chicago and asked them questions about what it meant to have a QTPOC aesthetic. In that question, right, the emergent themes that came up, there were about like 7 of them, and values had nothing to do with like, white supremacy, how we operate in white supremacy, whiteness, anything. It had to do everything with liberation and joy. It had to do with belonging. It had to do with unrealities, wholeness, emotional tenderness. That is what it means to be like, to center on QTPOC life, right? And so for us, it was one of those things where it was like, oh, this whole thing comes full circle. For us to get this joy, we need to have the mental healthness, but we need to go deep and go into that depth, right? And so for us, it's one of those things where those things are so interconnected that we cannot divorce them, right? The activism versus the wellness. One fuels the other. And also going into our programs with like our youth and our artists, right? When COVID hit, when the cultural uprising started to happen, one of the things we heard back from our artists is, hey, we don't need like money to make art. We need money to survive right now. We need money to be out there in those protests. And so one thing we did was pivoted and was like, the youth need money. Let's have grants. Let's give them money. Like programming is not what's important here. What they're telling us is important is their mental health, is their base needs. So let us pivot to help that, right? Because that then allows you to go into your artistry. And so it's just one of those things is just interconnected. The interconnectedness of it all is super important, I think, in my life, and I think in QTPOC life in general.
Thank you so much, T. And just for people out there, to define QTPOC as queer, trans, people of color, in case there are people watching that aren't familiar with the acronym. Thank you so much. Oh, of course, No, I want to bounce to Jenese because I love, it's so easy to center on the joy, and I love centering on the joy of this moment because it has been a tough year, and we are in month 9 of a global pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. And I wanted to talk to you, Jenese, to kind of contextualize this moment and thinking about like the movement for Black Lives this summer and how there's a lot happening, and thinking about how for many activists, like the trauma of this moment, along with like just the emotional burden of it can manifest in like actual physical ailments, whether that is death, whether that is like hypertension, whether that is so many different things. So I just wanted to just give some context for people watching, like what have you noticed in your practice, and how do we like circumvent that? And how is like the social work field dealing with that at the moment, I guess?
Yes, I must start off by saying that we can't even imagine the impact right now. What we're seeing is just the start of it. I can predict that it will just really look way worse than it is now in terms of how it's affecting our community. One of the things, or several things, is we're noticing a lot of people are reporting increased symptoms of depression and anxiety through our work with young people, just really dealing with the uncertainties and the disconnection that they experience from services, needed services, such as mental health services and other supplemental services, believe it or not, such as being able to find a job or different things that really keep them engaged in positivity in the community. So in that way, the disconnection is affecting mental health. And furthermore, just the uncertainties, their financial uncertainties, housing uncertainties, and in a lot of ways, educational uncertainties. I think the back and forth, and again, you know, we were always thinking about public health measures and keeping that in mind when we're thinking about it, but there are uncertainties with that. A lot of the young people that we service through the program, they were already disconnected from school, and we were always working to re-engage them and just to think through options. So a lot aren't really able to fully connect and get the services that they need. And I think those are some of the major ways. Like I said, we can't even begin to kind of imagine the impact. I just think people's mental health are just going to continue to deteriorate at higher rates. And that's why we need at least more forums like this, or more providers to really step up to really help do the work and get in where you can. I think people are looking for people who could relate to them, relate to their experiences. And while I have this platform, I have to really put that out, that we really need more people of color in the field. I know a lot of people have reached out to me in terms of wanting that connection to people who could help them and support them. And unfortunately, I don't have the capacity to really take it on. And I know there's so many others are helping, whether through like helping making the referrals. And so we see that mental health, at least, is a necessary component of this and connection to it. So I think that's how we could get that's how we get a lot of people connected to service that might start coming in, talking about their depression. And when we do our assessment, we realize that, wow, they don't have housing, they don't have money, they don't really have some of those needs that will keep them, sustain them. And so a lot of our work, we have to take time to do that and just to build that support. So I think those are some of the key ways that I see it affecting at least the population of youth that we serve.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I really want to lift up what you were saying about more therapists of color, more people of color in social work, and how important it is for Black people and people of color to see ourselves represented, whether it's in social work or whether it's in the movement at the moment. And
Yes.
I don't know if T, if you want to touch on that too, with you being not only a organization of color, but also organization that focuses on queer and trans youth as well. There's some connection there. So I wanted to give you a moment. You feel like you want to speak, so I just wanted to give you.
Oh my God, no, I'm just, you know me, I'm an active listener. So with my and my snaps, that's just all it is. But I think everything Jenese is saying is spot on. And that's what we are seeing in our youth programs as well. You know, I think the first and foremost, what we're seeing is base needs need to be taken care of before we can talk about anything after that, right? Mm-hmm. So base needs of housing, base needs of food, base needs of, you know, getting your T-shots on time, all that stuff is what needs to be taken care of before we move forward and talk about the art and the division, right? Because so many, I think in so many places we exist as fractals right, and the fractals of ourselves. But if we're asking for a person to come into our program and be whole and to create from the whole, like, what does that mean? And TGO has been doing a lot of like thought about that and a lot of intentional depth work instead of breath with work of everyone, right? Yeah. And so it's one of the things that Jenese, I don't know if you feel, but I feel as though like sometimes I get into that dichotomy where I'm like, I want to help everybody, but I need to get one all the way through, right? And all the way through before and help everybody and spread myself too far.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That is so real.
Yes.
I want to take this moment to transition a little bit to pulling on this thread of like representing like people of color and Black people, seeing ourselves represented. I wanted to talk into OJ's work a moment. And OJ, you are just such a phenomenal photographer, and you have done the very hard work of documenting this summer and just like being an amazing photographer in general. And last week you were also featured in the Boston Globe, which was really awesome, in the new series, Beautiful Resistance. And the creator of the project, Janae Osterheld, had wrote about you saying, "Their eyes are a gift, documenting our lives, ensuring the narrative isn't looters and shooters, but instead a love language spoken in the tongue of liberation." And that, I just think that quote really sums up how you're speaking to like our community and our issues, and we're not like looters and shooters. We're not like all of those things. And I just wanted to give you a moment to talk about the power of your work and kind of the way you're shaping history in this moment, which I think is so important.
Thank you for that. Hi, everybody, I'm OJ. So I'm a Black Jewish queer photographer and director. And a journalist, and I use they, them pronouns. I'm really glad to be here and share the space with y'all tonight. Thank you for allowing me to share this part of myself. I don't frequently get to speak this candidly about the happy parts of my work. It's always more about the technical parts of my work, so I'm excited. And I wanted to thank Company One for having me. They were one of the first places to really let me have a first gig and shoot the work that I shoot now. But photography has been a gateway for me to experience joy. I've always juggled anxiety and depression and self-doubt. And when I picked up a camera in 2011, it changed the way I viewed the world and myself. My own sexual, race, and gender identity became so much clearer when I was able to appreciate others at all points and places in their lives. I was able to meet myself where I was the same way I was able to meet others. Photography allowed me to tiptoe into happiness, and I felt like happiness was something that I could not obtain for a very long time. But when I started capturing love and joy on camera, I knew it was possible for me too. What I have learned most from making pictures is that joy comes from a place far beyond whatever notions we've been fed. It comes from the smile that lives behind your eyes. It comes from the smell of a good friend. It comes from the small transformations we make to our days in order to do and be better. I wanted to find a way to tell people I love them without words. Capturing people in their most vulnerable moments, whether powerful or painful, has allowed me to process my own emotions and take better care of myself and my community. All the images I'm showing you right now are images that have given me a voice. I think when I thought of history before I picked up a camera, I always thought about monumental events, involving politics, because I had not really seen images the way I take them, seen as historical artifacts. Of course, protest work puts us in this place and time, but so does fashion, music, and candid moments. And I hope that in years and years from now, my work resonates with people who cannot find their joy. I hope my work encourages people to pick up cameras and tell their own stories. The stories belong to the people who experience them. And just understanding that all that power lies within us is really the main message of my work. What does it look like when we take back control? And what does it look like when we turn our cameras towards the people that look like us versus the people who don't look like us? So that's really why I create. And I hope you go home and you are home probably. I hope you pick up a camera tomorrow and take pictures and start writing for yourself and documenting moments that others would document for you.
That was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, if anybody has questions, you can drop them and I will definitely answer them towards the end. But I really do feel that the images that I make, hopefully people see them and know that there's other people in this world that are experiencing joy, even if they aren't. I think particularly with protest work, we see, like we're saying, like looters and shooters and all these different things. when in reality, we're really all just there trying to make a better lives for all of us, right? We're really just there trying to find community. And I think that's the most beautiful part of this. Very rarely do I go to a protest where people are being violent. If anything, it's the police that are violent first. And more times than not, it's people really wanting to come together and just air out their grievances. And it fills me with joy to know that one day in our history books, hopefully we'll see images that I've taken instead of the same images of white men spraying down Black folks with hoses and dogs attacking Black people. Like, what does it look like to see all the incredible Black feminine energy that is taking Boston by storm and uplifting our communities and creating mutual aid? Like, that's the stuff that brings me joy and like has my eyes a little watery, just because, you know, I know what my reality is when I'm out in the field. So to see people look at photos that are taken from somebody who's an outsider kind of looking in, and knowing that they're selectively choosing what images they choose to share with the public, it hurts me. When there's so much more than, you know, people pushing back at the cops. And when I say back, I mean it. I was recently put in a bad situation between the police, and I'm grateful for the independent Black journalists that were there that were able to document these moments, because I'm not sure what would have happened if they weren't. So support local Black journalists as well.
Wow. Thank you so much, OJ. What a gift. Thank you. Thank you. I know we're cycling through OJ's photos right now, and I'm not sure if we're all set with them.
I'm sorry, perfect. I do so much work.
No, I love it. I love it. It's just, it's so powerful. And I think why it's so great that you are centering joy with protest work, which I think a lot of people don't put the two together, and why like we're kind of putting like mental health and joy and like all this mixed in one bag, as Tonasia was saying earlier, how they all go hand in hand. And actually this Sunday, our Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley tweeted, which I think is so related to what you were just talking about, how people only want to watch trauma, people only want to trauma bond with activists, never celebrate. Joy is an act of resistance too. And I think I just love that she said that. And I think that that resonates deeply when I think about your work, OJ. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. But I did want to mention, especially when we're talking about trauma bonding, right? I think a lot of what we see through the media is that we're not allowed to experience rage either. And I just want to take this time to say that rage is a very valid emotion. And I'm definitely not trying to take away the rage aspects of protest either, because that's something that I think kind of gets miscommunicated in my message, that like, if you're angry and you have rage in you, you need to get it out too. And whatever way you see fit is the way that I see fit. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, because in this moment, like we have to make space for all emotions. Like we can't emotion police. So I think that really resonates deeply.
We're not here for the fractals anymore. We're here for the wholeness of it. So.
Yep.
Sorry, can you say that again, T? I missed that.
I said, we're not here for the fractals anymore. We're here for the wholeness of it. If I'm taking you, I'm taking all of you. And if you're taking me, I'm taking all of you, you know?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Can't experience one without the other. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. Awesome. Cool. I want to pivot us a little bit. I want to talk to you, T, working at the Theater Offensive and thinking about a way to channel like all of this emotion of this year of like thinking about everything that's happening. Think about you as an artist and what you're doing with the Theater Offensive and Company One. I have a little plug there. We have the Better Future Joy and Wellness program that's going to start next month. And I just wanted to talk to you about like the genesis of that program, what that program is, and like why it's important for artists to be like in the mental health, joy, wellness, all of that, why it's so important that we're in this conversation.
I mean, I think like, so I think there are like two levels to it, right? There's the artist level, which I'm saying is that the artist level, we've seen this industry literally chew up QTPOC artists, POC artists, right? And spit it back out like nothing. We've seen it like Lauryn Hill, we've seen it on the big scales and on the small scales. Right. And what that always goes back to, right, is that mental health, mental wellness part, right? That being able to be healthy in your artistry as you move forward, right? And so we've all seen it from our white counterparts, our artists, to our Black artists. So one of the things that we really need to do is interrogate that. I think we've spent too many years being okay with how this industry chews up people and spit it out, instead of saying, what is it within the structure of our organizations and the structure of how we see these binaries, right? How do we unpack that and say, why? Why are we doing things this way? And maybe how do we change things to include maybe accessibility and access for every point of people, right? And so that's what I have to say on the artist level. Is like, on the artist level, we've just seen, and I think that empathy there is what I've been off of from the jump. I know, Jasmine, you and I have had conversations about like what it means to be empathetic in this arts industry and what it means to go forward as a collective, right? And go forward in collaboration. So I think that number one, that is why it's important. It's important because no matter what, this industry takes a lot out of us, and for all of us to keep going, we need to be intersectional in it all. And that's not my idea. Like, look at the Combahee River Collective, queer Black femmes from the past. Like, that is their idea of intersectionality and feminism moving forward, right? So that's been said before. And now we're just reckoning with it right now. But on the side, I will say, of organizationally, why this program, Better Future, and the ones that we're moving in together, which is like health and wellness and joy, is really important, is because I think TTO and certain organizations like Company One are at that point in time where we are like, what does actual mutual aid mean for us as organizations? Not only for me as an artist, but as an organization in this time. And I think the reason why Company One and TTO like really are jamming in this like co-pro, is what I'll say, is because when we both came to the table, we came to the table with abundance. We came to the table knowing that we both are not perfect and that things will need to be talked about. But in seeing those challenges, we talk through them and move forward. And so that's the reason why it is so important. Also, it's so important because I think as organizations living in this time during COVID, right, one thing that we really need to know, especially about POC-centered organizations, is that your come up is my come up. It is not, we are not in opposition. We are working together, right? And I think this program is so important because we're working together in this. We're working together on a budget. We're working together on an MOU. We're working together in hiring artists. Like, you are working on our projects and you all are leading projects and we're working on your projects. It's kind of like our whole staff came together and made one mega staff. We have programs. And so I think that this is in and of itself revolutionary in Boston, because a lot of times, just because of granting sources and how they're accessed, which needs to change too, we can get into that at a different time, right? But because of the way that granting processes are made, it makes us feel like we're pitted against each other so often, when in actuality, in these times when our budgets are like going down, when we are fearful about our future, what is going to get us through in the now is collaborating, basically. And so that's kind of how I feel it's revolutionary as a whole. I don't know if that makes sense. It's the night, y'all, but.
No, it made so much sense. And just to like talk more, like, do you mind talking about like the specifics of the program for people who are watching and what to expect?
Yeah. So the specifics of the program is Company One and TTO are collaborating, and we're working on a few different like suites of programming to give you. And it's everything from like getting your face right with Allie Dawson, to trans boxing classes that we're hiring from New York to go on, to also some meditation circles, some tantra circles that are focused towards body dysmorphia and what it means to reconcile those differences and learning your body again. Also, we hope to collaborate with like Hive Soul Yoga and bringing yoga to you all. So it's one of those things where we're not only trying to lift up ourselves in this, but we're actively donating to other organizations who will be presenting on our platforms, which is something I'm really excited about. Also, we got D&D with Deity. If y'all are interested in some Dungeons and Dragons from a QTPOC lens, like, get on it. So it's a lot of everything, not really focused on like one specific kind of health, but all of joy, right? Like, what encapsulate the joy for us, seeing our folks online, right? Seeing a room full of Black faces, right? That's the things that bring me joy in this time of COVID. And I'm excited that we're going to bring it to you.
Thank you for talking about it. I'm excited as well. And it, like you're saying, it feels like such an exciting collaboration for two theater organizations to be like, let's like, try and bring some joy to people. So I'm really excited as well. Jenese, I wanted to ask you kind of like the flip side of that question. Me and you have spoken a little bit about this, but what it's like to be a social worker, to work at JRI, and to have like the arts. Why is the arts integral to your work as well? And how can we support each other in this moment to, we all have such a common goal, but like to move forward together.
Yes. Like I told you, I was bursting with excitement when you reach out, because art really is a tool that we have used to connect with young people, to really explore, well, differences, their experiences, and for them to really communicate their feelings to us. A lot of our young people are into music, so oftentimes they're exposing us to different raps or even R&B songs that they really connect to, that, you know, really speaks to their experiences that they're having. So it gets us in. And I think it allows us to have a conversation around healing. It allows us to kind of expose them to other things too. Our program, we take a lot of the young people to the theater, believe it or not. But it is us really introducing the idea of like really live performance. But when they go, they open up, they're able to have more conversations about it. So it is a forum for them to really share those deeper parts, and the deeper parts allow us to do the work around healing. Personally, for me, I am connected to theater too. I think for my birthday, that's my special thing to do for myself, where I'll just take myself out to eat a meal and then just go to the theater just to enjoy something by myself, just to just get lost in that. And I have frequented theater in and around Boston. And so it's very special, and the connection is there for me, because it takes you away from like your reality. It just really expands on your imagination and just to bring joy. And in that moment, you're just caught up and get lost with it. So I think it's a very powerful tool. And I'm excited that we're having this and even having this conversation, because I think we need more collaboration. More recently, an artist reached out to our program in terms of really wanting to do work with justice involved youth. It is, you know, really thinking about doing murals, or just really to get them some of that out there. I think they experience so much. So I think the more that we could kind of find different ways to give them that opportunity to express themselves, for it to be seen and talked about, I think that could just be really powerful. And it's an important part of healing and moving forward.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. And then can you also speak to, Jenese, like, because there's so many programs that you do with youth. I know there's, you have the trauma teams that are at JRI, yeah. And just, can you speak to like the resource? I know we're talking about like getting to healing, but like sometimes some people don't know how to get on that path, and especially our youth, and like what are the resources that you guys provide to get there, to get to theater?
Our services are referral based. So usually we have in school or probation office or community members, parents reaching out to just really when there is a problem, which unfortunately that's how we become involved, and we have to hit the ground running a lot of the time. So when we get involved, so I'll start with the SMART team, because there are different arms to the program. So the SMART team is really our longest program, or it started about 7.5 years ago, approximately. And it came as a response to, we know that there's an overwhelming number of youth that are being serviced by the juvenile justice system. A lot of them, while they may go into Department of Youth Services, they do come back to the communities. And so it was an attempt to really provide critical services to kind of keep them in the community and keep them positively engaged to services in the community. So a family, because our services are family centered, they will get the option of working with a clinician or a therapeutic mentor. The beauty of that is a lot of our staff come with lived experience, are deeply connected to racial justice. and really believe that young people can change, can evolve, can grow. And so we see the young people, we kind of understand that they have had experiences that affect them. So we help them sometimes to process that through the different clinical interventions, but really showing up when, when they need us the most. And sometimes that might be going to court with them, showing up at a school meeting, or just really connecting them with them in the community that they live. Just so it's really important that we're really going out to see them. I would say, and this is where I have to lift up the team members, they're the most dedicated team members that will hunt the youth down and really expose them to the services and work alongside them to give them the support. And we provide long-term sustained support, clinical services. And I can't say enough about that program, in terms of how it helps young people to flourish. Another programming that we offer is through the Boston, the trauma response team. That really it really is an evolution, I will say, that came about approximately 7.5 years ago in terms of, through our work at the SMART team, we recognize that one of the issues that young people deal with is violence in the community. So we pursued funding services through VOCA grant, Victims of Crime Act, really just to provide targeted support to the population of youth that are really dealing with violence. That was further expanded through collaboration, going off of collaboration with the Boston Public Health Commission, where it deepens our reach in the community by plugging into resources that were really coming together through the neighborhood trauma hood teams. I would say for that program, they're reaching out after incidents of community violence, and we're offering supports at the scene of the crime, which it's hard to even imagine, but we have dedicated community members who that is kind of their contribution to this. Is like they want to take care of their community. They want to be connected to healing. They're reaching out, going out at all hours of the night. I recently began providing oversight to that program, and they will move mountain to get services to the young people in community. And so I really have to lift them up for really doing that level of work. And they advocate fiercely. And through our collaboration with the Boston Public Health Commission, we're able to kind of look at systemically, what else can we do? What else can we do to kind of ensure that this issue of violence is getting some attention? Prior to this program, it was one person doing it and really getting at the needs. And you can imagine I cannot imagine what that was, really doing that. So with this approach and with the partnership that we have and how we've been able to build out neighborhood teams, we're engaging the community. A lot of the we have an unseen arm of the program. They're community members who've been trained and had some training and want to respond to community violence. And it's important that it's community members responding to this, because it's really putting them in an empowering position to help their community. I think it helps to kind of sustain those services, because they recognize members of the community that are connected to doing the work. And it's a tough time to really a tough thing to deal with, a loss, and just to have someone who look like you, have similar experience, and will go above and beyond is so key to the work and for them to get access to mental health services. So those are some of the array of services offered through the program, and that could be accessed by just reaching out to us.
Yeah. That's really awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all those resources, and we'll definitely make sure we'll get them in the chat. So if those who are in need of them, we can make sure you definitely drop that. What you were saying at the end really reminded me, it feels like all this is tied back together. When you were saying how important it is of community members being the ones to go out and go to the different scenes. It's so important that I think we see ourselves in the people that are either providing resources or our artists or et cetera, et cetera. So I think that just ties back to what we were talking about earlier. So I just wanted to bring that back together. I just want to give a reminder for people who are watching out there, feel free to like drop any questions you have in the chat. We are so excited to answer all of them. Cool, great. So I did want to switch to something that, what feels like a thing that you as people, as people at your institutions, like what is something that you do to recharge, to find joy, and what is something that you can impart to our viewers, whether that's something that you do or something that maybe someone does that you think was a gift you want to give to our audience today watching before we move on to some questions.
I'll start. I think this is why I enjoy this space, because many of the things that I do is just reflected in everyone's work. So I like to take pictures too. And I go out in nature a lot. And in fact, it's my favorite thing. I often do it alone, but I also do it with friends and colleagues, just to be out. You find that you might start a walk, for example, or a hike, just flooded in with emotions or just thoughts, and just by really being out there, you just really experience the healing that space brings in terms of being in the outdoors. So I really try to expose myself a lot to the outdoors. And in fact, that has been what sustained me. I have done short hikes, the really long hikes, 8 hours hikes. So I really push myself with that. And along the way, I capture image. I've done some of that in New Hampshire, and really seeing waterfalls just really brings me joy. So I think I am the happiest when I'm able to kind of really go out and do that. Another thing that I really want to lift up is spirituality. And I think for me, there has been an evolution, and this is just taking it out of like church or organization, but just me kind of feeding that part of myself. Having different things that I go to has been helpful in doing this work, and introducing that to clients or even staff, just like, we're spiritual being, like how are you kind of like feeding that part of you? And at least for me, it's helped me with growth. It's helped me to kind of sustain in tough times. How, what I tell myself. So those are some of the things that I have kind of been more intentional about, and brings me joy ultimately.
I think that, I find joy in, I think, going back to, again, nature. So Jenese, I'm going to need to know those waterfalls in New Hampshire you go to. I'm going to need you to put it in the chat for me because I need to go. So I agree
with you.
Right? Let's go. So I think nature is really important, because I agree. You started off in one mind space and then you end in another. Like, we can learn so much if you just sit there and look at water for a little bit and look how water works and look how water flows. And actually the study of nature really tells us how we really should move in this work, which is slow and steady, right? And be like water, constantly flexible. So it's like doing those things and really breaking down the things in nature. Like if you watch how even dandelions grow in clusters, right? Because they need each other. And so looking back even at the biometaphysics of that tells us how we need to grow as a community here. I think another thing that I've really been leaning on is somatic therapy. I know I'm a very body-centered person as an actor and as a mover. And so one of the things that really gets me grounded is really centering myself in my body physically, right? Plush, and even if it's like a robe, like a plush robe, sitting in a plush robe in the morning, right? Like feeling the feel of your dog, feeling the feel of the floor, and going through those exercises really, really centers me. And also, like, I've been reconnecting with my ancestors. ancestors, again, on spirituality. Like I've sat and I've made an ancestor altar, right? And it's research, right? You go online, you research everything, but then at the end of the day, it's what feels right to you, right? And it's listening to yourself. And so I've started building a connection with my ancestors through meditation, because I realized the more I sit with myself, the more I sit with them. And so I'll say those are the things that have really grounded me in this time.
I have similar tactics that I've been using. Excuse me. I think the thing that I focus on the most is this connection with my ancestors. And I don't think there's a right way to do it. So at first I was really overwhelmed by this idea of like, oh, like I have to do this way and this that way. I think the first thing that helped me was just being open to the idea of having ancestors that want to hear me talk too. So really sitting with myself and trying to understand what messages are for me and what's not for me. Or someone always says to me, what's the universe? What's you? What's the other person in your life, right? And that's connected to ancestors, but that's something that really gets me through too. As far as body rest, I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't get a lot of it. I work probably like 70 hours a week. Even through a pandemic, I'm either sitting at my desk chair or I'm out shooting or making images. I'm trying to take that word out of my vocabulary as far as making pictures goes. But I think finding time to do silly things too. Like I love The Sims. I swear by Sims as a form of therapy. And I think, people, when I talk about it, people are like, what the heck, why? But there's no better way to just like, you know what? I just want to turn things off for a minute. Let me power on my computer and make a little family and bring them joy because it brings me joy. So, and I started playing Dungeons and Dragons every Thursday, 4 to 7 with a bunch of queer people. Yeah, like just get it where you can, create your own worlds and thrive in those. That way you can thrive in your actual world is really what it comes down to.
That was amazing, all of you. I love all the things that you do. I feel like that brought me joy just hearing you guys talk about what brings you joy. So thank you so much for sharing those little gifts. I'm gonna highlight some questions that we have from some people that are watching at home. OJ, I think this question's for you, and this kind of goes to what you were just talking about of like, how do you balance all of this, like all this intellectual work and all this hands-on work, and like how do you find the balance?
I'm gonna be honest, and every day is a different way to handle it. I don't have a specific set plan for things when it comes to me unpacking how my day goes. I think before the pandemic, it used to be like, all right, I'm up, 8 a.m. I do this, 9 a.m. I do this, and like had this set schedule. And now I'm much kinder to myself. And I'm like, okay, you have these big things to do. What are some small things you can do? And what do your breaks look like during the day that bring you joy instead of like blocks of breaks, if that makes sense? And I set timers. If I start working on a project, I no longer am like, oh, I've been working on this for 6 hours. I haven't ate, I haven't drank water. It's like, no, every 30 minutes, I do a body check-in. I stand up, I stretch a little bit, and I figure out what comes next. I think balance is hard when you're working in activism and in art. Because my art is so much a part of who I am, and activism doesn't feel like activism when it is your life. So it's not so much balance as it is a state of being. And I wish I had a better answer for that. And I think people sometimes ask me that a lot, like, how do you balance everything? And the answer is that I really don't. I just am. And I find a way to work through who I am.
OJ, I was literally talking to my boss the other day around professional development, and we put that, like creating balance, on my professional development goals because it is so hard in this work that we do.
It absolutely is. Somebody once said to me, not once, all the time, how do you do your work-life balance? I'm like, work-life balance? I work from home and I work to live. So, step by step, we'll figure it out.
I mean, I'll chime in, and I'm like, I wish you would create it, but I understand what you're saying, because I think when you're doing work that fuels you, it's never feels like a day of work, I think someone says. And I think every day I get energized too, in terms of, okay, what are we going to tackle next? How do you move the needle? I think we have such responsibility, especially within mental health, to show up for people. People really depend on us. So those who are called to do this level of work, certainly understand the charge. And I think we have some innate thing in us that allows us to do that. I think all of us lifted up spirituality. So I do believe that we're doing work that we're meant to do, and has gifts, in doing. So I think for someone who this isn't your lane, it might seem like hard work, but I could have the hardest day, get up tomorrow, and you would not really know, because it's just such a part of you and kind of like your impact that you understand that you're making on the world. So I think the more you're aligned with that purpose, I think you find the balance through that. I think for me, I do exciting things in my career. I'm always kind of, as a social worker, I've always said, oh, I've always been a social worker. And I think that does take different definitions. I started off by being a clinician, working one-on-one with client. And then after that, I recognized, oh, wow, I want to go into leadership, because then that would kind of expand my reach. And then now I have so many, a few programs under me. And so for me, it makes sense, that evolution, because I'm having a reach, and that reach every day energize me. And I do need that period of rest, but I think knowing your purpose allows you to just sustain yourself.
That's great. Yeah. We have another question for you, Jenese, about finding funding. So Megan from YouTube asks, do you find it difficult to obtain funding for mental health? And I think they may be speaking directly to probably these programs that we were speaking about earlier with JRI.
That's a good question. I think through the SMART team, we provide, it's insurance-based services. So in that way, it is sustained as long as we do assessment, and as long as there is medical necessity, family could receive services for as long as they need it. Now, there is an expectation that we're always looking to kind of move families along. But one of the things I really like about the SMART team is we're not rushing families through services. I think we work with some of the most traumatized families that could really need services for a while to just get at all the layers that are there and wrapped into their needs. So as long as we're able to back up our assessment, we're able to service them. We've worked with clients upward 3-4 years, and that is really, really good in terms of help to address the needs. I think the other program, the Boston Trauma Response Team, we get VOCA funding, and that is in place. And like I said, we're going on our 7th year. And I think and that's one of my role in terms of thinking about different ways to diversify the program. So at any point, funding could change. So I'm always kind of looking at different things that are coming out and recognizing needs. Currently, we're working to expand services that has to do with substance use, because it's a little bit different for inner city. I think with the opioid crisis, there is a clear path with that, but it's a little bit different for youth who are in Boston. So just to really think about that and provide services. And so we have different RFRs that come out that we're able to respond to. And oftentimes we do that in collaborations with other program, just to really propose a robust plan, a multi-systemic, multi-pronged kind of support in addressing the issues. So those are some of the ways that we've secured our funding. Again, which each of these funding source comes with limitation. None really quite allow us the freedom to really deliver services, because it's, but I think we're doing our best with what we're working with, and at least, in furthering our reach and looking for more opportunities to secure funding.
That's great. That's really great. Awesome. And a last question to close us off. What does a better future look like to all of you? A future that prioritizes mental wellness and joy and all of that. Like, what does it look like to you? Whether it's here in Boston or just in general?
I mean, I think the reason, why it's such a hard answer is because, yeah, you got the Aries me that want to be like, queer, femme, black led leadership everywhere. That's what it looks like to me, right? But then you have the more, I want to say, like, teased out answer, which is like, there are a lot of tenets and principles out there that have already been, like, been fighting for in this whole, I'll say, journey to wholeness that the whole world is doing right now, right? And so what really those tenets exist are like, be like water, right? The small is a reflection of the large, right? The future that I look for and I look towards is a future that is built with empathy, that is built with each other and built with community, right? Knowing that what one person's come up is your person's come up, right? And know that all of us that work at the intersections of this are the people who are just right to move this nodal just along, right? To move this pinpoint along. And so that's all I would say is a better future is knowing that, like, if you're working at the intersections of all of these things, you are just where you need to be to create change, and you are doing it. So continue to work towards that better future. That's what I'll say for myself.
I think for me, more recently, I have been thinking about the liberation movement. I think for a while, I have accepted at least equity and like really do work around it. And not that anything is wrong with that, but I think we need to take it a little bit more in terms of the liberation movement. And speaking about tenets of connected to that, it's really around exactly what we're doing tonight is really reaching out and having this conversation in this shared space. Like, we're really doing similar work, just to build community around it. And really just to, and this is what I'm especially interested in, and I really do think it's a way to a better future, is how we can sustain it. I think a lot of times great ideas come up, and when we're talking about communities, they have ideas in terms of what will change their lives, what will have an impact. And but it's not funded, or it's difficult to implement, or it just really comes and goes. And I think that really adds to the trauma that at least, communities of colors or other marginalized population experience. So I really do think that we need to name injustices. We need to really come together to really have a thoughtful approach. And it's not just you are responsible to it, but how are we going to own it in terms of bringing about the solution? I think it's a brave and bold approach. And I agree with you. We need to get rid of the competitiveness and who's better than, but really, like, where do we meet? How do I empower you? How do I support your program and your initiative? And I think in doing that, we would have moved the needle. I think it's hard, at least sometimes, to imagine things changing overnight. But I think if inch by inch we move the needle and support each other through connection, I think that's the way to a better future.
I think for me, it's just this idea of people not having to explain themselves in order for their identities to be valid enough to be fought for. Like, that is the base level of how, like, I want a better future to start, right? Like, how do we get everyone to understand that no matter who you are valid enough to have your basic needs met and to have plus more, right? Like, that's not enough. Basic needs are not enough. People should be living full, glorious lives with everything that they have ever wanted. And why is that not happening? And being able to, like, dig deeper and figure out what that is. I think through the arts, a better future for me looks like people who are creating great art being given the funding that they deserve too, right? There's so many incredible Black and brown and queer artists out there who are not given the same amount of grants, not given the same amount of training that folks from affluent white communities are given. And how do we even that playing field? Or, I almost said the F word. I'm really sick of this idea of even evening it, right? Like, how do we elevate this experience of life? how do we give people way more than they ever anticipated, like ever even thought was real? And that's what a better world looks like for me. I don't want to meet people halfway. I'm not really interested in, like, equity is great, but like, I want to take it a step further, right? Like, what does it look like to thrive? I don't want to be equal. I want to be fabulous. I want to be great. And I think everybody should have that option in their lives.
Wow. Wow. What an amazing way to just close. Oh my gosh. Thank you guys so much. You are all such selfless, oh my God, wrong word, selfless people. And the gifts that you have given us tonight, with your thoughts, with your wisdom, is so invaluable. And just, wow, amazing. Thank you so much for answering that question. But now we got a special treat. We have somebody who is here tonight to perform for us, to give us a little something. We have Oompa here to perform a song for us and close us out for the evening. Thank you so much, Jenese, OJ, Tonasia. Amazing, amazing, amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Oompa, take it away.
Hey, yo, thank you so much for this conversation. I was staring at my computer screen like true black church mode, like, go off, y'all better go, you better. That's so I felt like I was a part of the panel. So thank you for the panel. Thank you for having me as a special guest. I changed the song. I'm gonna do thank you because I just feel moved by everything that was said here today. And I'm looking at even this song that I wrote almost 2 or 3 years ago now, and thinking about where I am in my joy and how this was a way for me to look forward to this joy that I'm experiencing now and being able to center it, but also like how like I've even grown since realizing or actualizing this joy. So I hope you enjoy it. Again, thank you for having me, and shout out to y'all for this. This is really fire. Oh yeah, my name is Oompa. Yeah. Hi. Alrighty, let's see if the technologies want to be our friends. No, they don't want to be my friend. So, oh, there it is. Repeat after me at home, y'all, okay? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm this, my mama be there, I ain't going back to school, sad. You been gone 9 years, no 40 acres on no mule, sad. I be goddamn if the homie ain't free. Still an N-word in America, that news be chasing me, but I be flexing. I ain't stressed, like, ain't no depression, a black Jetson. Boy, I tell ya, ain't no yes'em, ain't no time card, ain't no wage gap. I'm behind that wheel of fortune, no van and no sage like my sister. I see you folk, that days I pay you for the vision. You leave them know, and put a few fries in the bucket when it ain't your stove. But when it comes to your business, you take no shorts. Hey, that's some real for you. I feel for you, boy, they always want me to dance. I tell them if the check ain't thick as me, I really can't. But if it is, boy, you know I'm hitting that Millie Rock. I hit the bank, the 401k, then I lift my block. What did you asking? Culture vultures get taxed. I'm black as of Uncle Sam. Black as the back of hands. Black as the magic sand. Coming back from my pioneer land. Fit no borders and pies, man. Back up, we bout to play. I'm like, I can't believe I came this far. I can't believe I lost it all. When I think about all I want, I gotta thank you. Hey, hey, I can't believe I came this far. I can't believe I lost it all. When I think about all I want, I gotta thank you. Y'all, I'm that black chubby hood rat, big dog with the good cat, smoking on LL pack, trying to buy the hood back. I know that they mad at me, I escaped that felony. If you want me behind bars, you gotta pay my salary. Turn the pain to melody, they trying to pick my brain. Oompa, you do your thing, trying to do that the same. I be like, you ain't got it, can't make $1 from change. That we cut from a different cloth and your fabric, that's out my range. I don't know how to wear it, I don't know how to panic. I just go like, God damn it, there she go. Hold that nab and she gon' blow. Then they mad cause when she go, she gon' grab it, hit the stove. Won't she have... I'm made from magic, y'all, okay? I can't believe I came this far. I can't believe I lost it all. When I think about all I want, I gotta thank you. I can't believe I came this far. I can't believe I lost it all. When I think about all I want, I gotta thank you. It's your turn, ready? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, man, I gotta thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if y'all could hear me singing through this screen. My heart thanks you. Thank you so much, Oompa. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. Do you feel good in your soul? Because I feel good in my soul. Thank you all so very, very much. Thank you. Thank you all for watching with us and being with us here today for episode 1 of the 2nd season of the C1 Better Future series. For more information and resources on our panelists, action steps that you can take, please visit us at company1.org/betterfuture. If you enjoyed the program tonight, and like for real, how could you not? Please consider making a donation to Company One in order to support more upcoming events. To donate, please visit company1.org/donate. Super simple. That link is also in the description and in the chat for this video. Lastly, we're going to drop a link to a survey in the comments section. Please, please, please fill out the survey and let us know about your experience with our program. We're also going to be sharing some resources that come out of that discussion, and you don't want to miss it. So thank you so much. We'll see you next month for the launch of the Better Future Joy and Wellness in collaboration with the Theater Offensive. We're going to be dropping a link in the chat. Sign up for early access to get the sessions. Thank you so much, OJ. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Tonasia. Thank you, Oompa. Thank you to our interpreters, Sarah and Jess. And of course, thank you to Jasmine. I hope you are leaving with a full spirit. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'd sing it like Oompa, but I can't. Thanks.